Right guys, hope you're all keeping safe. Today, as always, I'm going to cover everything from state of the game, but before I do, I'm going to embrace the position as news anchor in this game. That's my niche. Take a look at this. This is my character screen, which shows that I have put in 22 days into the Division 2. Like a lot of people, I work 9 till 5, full-time job, Monday to Friday. I don't play the Division 2 at the weekend because I spend time with my family and my wife. In the week, I get home about 6 PM, play for about 3 hours whilst also scripting, editing and uploading my videos. I play the game probably 2 to 3 hours a night, Monday to Friday. You know, I don't know life the game because I don't have the time to do it. There's a reason why I chose to go down the news route niche predominantly on my channel, and that's because I just have the time to do it. And that's why there's other channels out there who do build videos which are much better suited to do those videos than I am. With that said, let's get to the news with the Division 2's most dedicated news anchor with a sprinkle of discussion videos. We've got buffs to assault rifles coming, value adjustments to named items and more. Let's begin. So, as always, I've taken down all the bullet points, the most important bullet points from today's stream, and I'm going to go over everything. Today we had Hamish, Chris and Bruce Kelly. Of course, the first thing they did was address the bans, and I'm pretty much going to go through almost word for word what they had to say. So the first thing I wanted to address was the bans and the rollback. Hamish said, "We've never been one to shy away from difficult streams and situations," so they briefly want to talk about it rather than just bury their head. Chris went over the history of the ban, of how it came to be, essentially. They were made aware of the exploit using the turret with different variations. They tried to fix the issue. They were finally able to fix it to a point where they could look at those who had systematically exploited it. The first time we're made aware of this was on the week of March 17th. They are aware that there is actually more damage glitches out there as well, which they're currently working on. They took the time away from the last fix to look at the data in order to ban people. I think they took about, 4 days or something. And they aren't going to confirm how many bans there were, and they won't tell us how they detected people who had used it, because that way people can find ways to bypass those methods. They didn't look into groups of people, as so many had suggested. They looked at individual player accounts and used strong data to pick those players out. Hamish put up false positives with Bruce. They said if people believe action has been taken unfairly on accounts, please report it so that they can review. The devs say they have been very diligent on this, which is why they didn't ban people right away after the last fix, and they took some time away. Bruce brought up that people were saying it's like 50% of people in the community that have been banned, but Bruce said it's nowhere near that figure. Thousands of players play the game who never go on Twitter or Reddit or anything and had no idea about the glitch in the first place. Chris said they did not take action. They did not take action if they can't 100% verify it's been done by a particular person. The first offence is you get the 7-day suspension, and you can see there's been rollbacks as well. If you do it again or anything similar that breaches terms of service, you could be banned permanently. So that was their input, and that took up the majority of the state of the game. But they did go on to talk about TU8.5, which includes, and TU9, which includes some buffs and nerfs and stuff. We're going to go over those. So TU8.5 is scheduled to release next week. No exact date, but it will likely be next Tuesday, as long as everything goes as planned. Control points will be fixed in that. They are addressing the striker gear set. That's going to be fixed as part of TU8.5. There's going to be balance changes with NPCs coming. I actually covered the full patch notes for this in a previous video. We know the manual revive hive should be fixed with TU8.5. The auto revive hive, I believe they are still currently working on. They say they're constantly looking at the balance of the game. They are particularly interested in particular outliers like fire damage, poison damage, warhounds and other such things in the game. Bruce said there should be no mechanic in the game that should one-shot you, and they are finding these instances to make changes. The work from home situation has been challenging and had an impact, so they are trying their best to adjust to the situation. Chris said to give you a view into the situation, there's way more frequent meetings, people overhearing others and chiming in and all of that when you're in the office, but that's just not possible right now. The interaction between people is just so much slower than what it used to be, which is why stuff is taking longer than normal. They then segue to discuss the state of the balance in the game. They are happy where things have landed currently, but they are focusing more on outliers like True Suns and explosive ammo. Hamish brought up the classic M1A as an outlier, maybe. He actually said himself, for him, he's using the M1A focus, shield, that sort of thing. Bruce said the classic M1A shield and focus has risen to the top of the meta pile, and it is crazy powerful. Unfortunately, it's not working as intended. Focus should only be working when aiming through the scope, rather than what's actually happening now, where you don't, when you go onto a shield, it doesn't aim through the scope, but you just get the reticle, but it's still proccing focus. They have a fix, but they are discussing what their intention is there, just overall as a meta. They then went on to talk about the sentiment amongst the community or the higher tier players is that there's not a lot of variety in the game with builds. A lot of that has to do with some overtuned named items, like best in slot items, but they got the numbers wrong in a few places, is what they're saying. They want best in slot items, but some of the stuff is maybe just a little bit overtuned. Specifically, they said the Hollow Man, Fox's Prayers, and Contractor's Gloves. And they will address these, but they still want them to be powerful. So they're likely just going to bring the values down, I imagine, a little bit on those. They also realise that these named items compound with the brand set talent attributes that they're on as well. So, you got Fox's Prayers, which is, on your Overlord armaments knee pads. So that is also has like 10% rifle damage, so it kind of compounds the issue. They are going to buff assault rifles, particularly the damage to health value on assault rifles will be buffed as it's currently too low. Punch Drunk will be getting buffed to bring it up with more of the other named items. They are playing with about 20% headshot damage is what they're looking at currently. I believe the most you can get right now is 10.9%. Claws Out is quite bugged, so it will. When they fix it, it will roll with skill tiers, additional pistol damage, and they are looking to buff the melee damage to about 500% from what I believe it is now is 200%. So, that's you would say quite a big buff on that. Although melee damage at higher difficulty is still pretty useless for the most part. There's more to talk about as well. That there's a lot more stuff going on in the game. They want to address the conversation around build diversity. The LMG and Classic M1A are the only viable builds, is what the community sentiment is right now. And they know that's not exactly true based on the data, but they know how easy it is to get caught up in the community kind of feedback and sentiment that's going around in videos and stuff. In particular, they were talking about skill builds. Hardwired is in their top 5 for gear sets that people are actually using. Unbreakable Talent is still the top talent being essentially used based on data, so they know that there is that diversity there. They acknowledge there is a niche, however, that is very strong. They wanted to clarify that they are okay with best in slot items, but they are going to do their best to bring other playstyles into the game. They are going to bring up the underperformers and address some of the outliers, and I think we've already discussed a few of those here. They then moved on to exotics. They acknowledge that some of the exotics are underperforming. They are addressing some of that in TU9 at the end of April. I can't remember exactly what they're addressing. You'd have to go back and watch my other video, or just check out the patch notes yourselves on Reddit or the Ubisoft forums. The working from home situation again is challenging. They would have liked to have done one big pass on exotics, but when they've got to do bug fixing and there's content as well that they're working on, this will instead come in 2 stages rather than 1 stage. In the future, they will be allowing players to acquire the backpack and chest piece for the raid exclusive gear sets like Tip of the Spear, Negotiator Celebrate, etc., as they believe that because people are not being able to get that those particular gear sets are underperforming, and they believe that when you get that stuff, then they will perform as intended. Roadmap is that TU8.5 is next week, hopefully, and then later in April will be TU9, and they are hopefully going to be addressing a lot with these updates. Hamish then went on to briefly discuss seasons with the Venus Manhunt. They wanted to remind players that by changing your world difficulty, it will reset your progress towards that manhunt. And of course, there is a warning message when you do that, which says the same. So just for anyone who's done that and didn't realise, there is that warning message. So just be careful. And that was pretty much it for the stream, to be honest. So we've got build diversity kind of being addressed. They talked about LMGs and M1As and stuff. Unfortunately, I think the M1A will probably get a little bit of a nerf here. I don't think LMGs will, but I think what they're trying to do is not nerf the weapons themselves, but bring the compounding stuff, like your named items, which work really well with them. Contractor Gloves for LMGs, damage to armor, and then you've got the Fox's Prayers, which is what damage to targets out of cover, 15% for the classic M1A. What they're trying to do is bring those values down to not compound the actual power of those particular weapons, because I don't think the weapons themselves, from what I've heard, are the actual problem. It's more so that the gear around them, the builds around them, compound that particular one. And I've said about this before, the sharpshooter specialization, which gives you 15% extra damage, compounds, you know, the damage on the M1A, which no other specialization actually does for any other weapon in the game. So yeah, they're trying to not actually nerf the weapons themselves. They're buffing ARs, or certainly buffing the values of the health damage. Again, they're not actually buffing ARs themselves, just the health damage that you can get on them. So they're trying to make everything a little bit more balanced. So there you go. That's it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Thanks very much for all of your support. Until the next one, epic out.